Yeah, I think this is it.
Hello, everyone. Can you guys hear us? There you are. Okay, perfect. Okay, we were struggling with this a little bit. Apologies. Let me go ahead and start sharing the screen because we are a little 3 minutes back behind, but no worries. Um, Perfect. Thanks everybody for joining. We're very excited about this session, and I'll just get started. We have session dedicated to speed up the adoption of VCF, and there are multiple ways of doing it within VCF, and we'll go over some of those options today in this in presentation. And we also have some cool demos. These are pre-recorded demos because real-time demo takes time to do the migration and whatnot. So we speed it up and made sure we cover most of the important things with you today. That being said, my name is Puneet Chawla. I'm a product marketing engineer and Broadcom under VMware Cloud Foundation or VCF division. And we start with a quick disclaimer. Everything we're going to show in the presentation today and in the demo, it's already been out. It's part of VCF 9.0 release, and so it's everything has been GA'd. We don't have anything we'll talk about that is future plan. But do take this disclaimer seriously, and we'll get started with our session itself. So the way we designed this session is around we talked to a lot of customers. So we created a use case of one of the customers. We call it Acme, and they have multiple data centers, data center A and data center B. And primary data center is A, which has multiple V centers, and then they also have a data center B, which might be running older hardware, so legacy hardware with older vSphere version. So we see this typically in the field, so we try to include that here. So maybe it resonate with you or some pieces of it. And the rest of the session is based upon this scenario. So we'll kind of go over the scenario and build up. Now, customer Acme is very excited to be, joining the VCF, and today they only have vCenter, but they want to take this to next level, do a private cloud within their environment. But they do also have some doubts, right? And more importantly, they want to make sure that when they'll be able to move their current environment into VCF, some key consideration has been taken care of. Things like minimum downtime. Of course, the virtual machines that running in these data centers, they're core to the business. They need them running 24 hours, 7 days a week, and so minimizing the downtime is important to them as it affects the business directly. Same with the data integrity. During the migration or upgrade, we'll talk about converge and import, all these different scenarios. So during these processes, they want to make sure that the data integrity is there and they're not getting any kind of data corruption, because not only them but their customers also depend on those things. Other important consideration is network connectivity. A lot of applications they have built over time. Some of them have already hard coded the IP addresses, for example, between the web server and database server and whatnot. So they cannot afford to change the networks. They cannot afford to re-IP or change the MAC address because their backups are integrated with that. So they want to make sure that network connectivity is there throughout the time and it's not changing. Other important considerations are scalability, that they can do this at large scale, and not only the migration or modernization piece, but also once they are on VCF, they want to make sure VCF grows with their business as they're going to grow over time, right? Last and not least, a lot of customer had this important piece, cost and time. They want to make sure they do it on time. They want to make sure they stay within the budget. So, lot of consideration, but it makes sense in any business situation. I have a specialist of VCF here. So Chester, tell us a little bit how customer Acme can achieve this.
All right, thanks, Praneet. My name is Chester Chan. I'm a technology product manager at Broadcom, responsible for the VCF lifecycle management. So certainly this scenario that Puneet has just shared for Acme, we've heard many of these examples from our customers, and certainly we have a few strategies available to help Acme and all of you to onboard to VCF9. But before we do that, let's take a couple minutes to do a quick overview of the VCF9 architecture and topology to level set the understanding of everyone on what's included in VCF9. So a VCF fleet is a part of the broader VCF based private cloud. So in a private cloud, there would be typically one or many fleets. And within a fleet, there would typically be one instance of VCF operations and automation, and these are components that manage everything within the fleet. So it spans across all the different instances. And within a VCF instance, this is where your workloads would run. And within an instance, there would be a management domain where the management components will be running in those clusters. And you would have workload domains where typically your workloads are run. So this could constitute what we're talking about as VCF 9. Now, in terms of helping Acme and all of our customers to adopt VCF9, in these type of scenario, we have really two main categories of main strategies and approaches to achieve this. The first strategy is to leverage VCF installer, which is a new component that we introduced in VCF9 and VCF operations to import existing vSphere-based environments into a new VCF instance. The advantage of this approach is that you can quickly onboard and manage the existing compatible virtual infrastructure using VCF. There's no need to upgrade your hardware first. There's no need to upgrade your vSphere first. You don't need to change your workloads. Everything just kind of stay as is as you add the VCF management layer on top. The second strategy is more suitable for scenario where you want to do hardware refresh, consolidation, just as Puneet has laid out a little bit earlier, where you would use the Neo hardware to deploy VCF9 with the Neo hardware in place. And then using XCX, you would migrate existing vSphere or KVM or Hyper-V workloads into this new VCF instance that you've created. XCX supports a seamless migration of these workloads while maintaining networking consistency. And it supports different migration types, which we'll go over a little bit later, that will meet your application's SLO requirements. And with these strategies, we're confident that Acme can achieve the goal of adopting VCF9 while meeting their 5 main criteria and goals.
Sounds great, Chester. So both strategies are there, and customer can use either one of them or can mix it. Just like we're going to show in our Acme case, we'll mix both of them.
That's right. We expect in a typical customer environment, there are different types of infrastructure, the different types of workloads, and these options are available for customers to choose from depending on their scenario and specific use cases.
Perfect. Let's see them.
All right. And regarding a VCF installer, again, as mentioned, this is a new component that we have introduced in VCF 9, where if you look in the older versions of VCF, The different components, they sometimes come with their own installer, and it's a kind of complicated process to tie all of these together. With the VCF installer, it's now consolidated into a single installer that's a guided wizard experience that would deploy all of the VCF components required that we have shared a little bit earlier. So with this installer, it really reduced the risk of this deployment process by automating these complex workflows, as well as you would be deploying using validated topologies that is supported by VCF. There's also much larger, broader configurations and options available for customers, where, for example, we support both instances that are connected online with a persistent internet connection, as well as air-gapped sites. We have options to deploy new VCF components, as well as onboarding existing ones, as we mentioned earlier in the strategy. There are availability models, which is simple single node model or highly available multi-node model. And lastly, there are capabilities to save the VCF configuration into a JSON file and then later on reuse in future deployments. So, with the VCF installer, we're making the deployment process itself faster, more flexible, more reliable, and repeatable. All right. So here in this example in data center A, we have a vSphere 8.0 update 3 environment currently deployed with ARIA operations version 8 in the environment as well. So to kick off this process of onboarding to VCF9, you would first upgrade the ARIA operations to the latest version, which is VCF operations 9.0.1, and then deploy the VCF installer appliance, which through that you would then deploy a new VCF fleet and its first instance. You would follow the installer wizard to select the components you want to converge or onboard to this management domain. And again, if you are using or the environment has version 8 for vSphere or version 4.2 or later for NSX, these will continue to be supported, and you don't need to upgrade that at the time of onboarding your VCF9. You can do that after the fact using VCF operations. And of course, if you have already upgraded your vSphere to 9.0 or NSX to 9.0, that obviously you will be supported as well. Okay. Let's quickly go into a demo video showing what's the actual process looks like in the product. All right. So here, this is the VCF installer's appliance that I've downloaded and deployed, and I have already connected it to the binary depot of Broadcom. And I select and start using the wizard, I start the process of deploying a VCF fleet. So in this first step, I would indicate that, as mentioned in the example, we have an existing VCF operations, we have an existing vCenter. So I would select to reuse and onboard those components. And in this demo example, this environment does not have NSX deployed. So instead of connecting to an existing one, we will be deploying a new one as part of the process. Okay. Here, the important aspect of this screen is about the deployment model, where you can select the simple single node or high availability models, and this will be applied to all of the components across the VCF stack. Here, we're connecting to the existing instance of VCF operations, and with that, we would be reusing this VCF operation instance, and furthermore, deploy some new appliances for fleet management and collector as part of this deployment. VCF automation is a optional component, so you can choose to deploy it later, or if you already are using VCF automation or ARIA automation, you can connect it to this existing instance as well. In this example, let's go ahead and deploy a new instance of VCF automation. For vCenter, in this example, I'm connecting to an existing vCenter, so we'll be providing the credentials to connect to this vCenter. The next step, it will go into the networking side where we're deploying a new NSX manager. As specified earlier, this is a single node deployment. And again, I want to highlight that this is actually a new capability in 9.0 to allow for a single node NSX deployment in this type of scenario. And then here you would review the settings, and this is also where you would be able to save this, export it to the JSON, and later on reuse the configurations. And before the actual deployment, we would validate the configurations as well as the components that you're importing. If there are any errors and warnings, you can remediate those here, rerun the validation before proceeding to the actual deployment after acknowledging or resolving these issues. In the installer, you can monitor the deployment progress. And once that process is completed, we would then go into VCF operations, which is where the VCF instance is managed. And here in this inventory view, you can see that in the process just now, we have deployed one instance of VCF with one management domain and one vCenter that we have just imported. And this is a detailed view that's showing kind of the same, where in this example we have 4 hosts in this cluster with some about 17 VMs that are running. So this is an example of how you would import and bring in an existing vCenter into the VCF environment. Okay. So continuing on from there, obviously I have more vCenters in my environment, so I would continue to bring those into VCF as the next step. And here, instead of the installer, because that's for the initial deployment, you will now use VCF operations to import these existing vSphere environments into VCF as workload domains. And similar to the process earlier, there is an option to deploy a new instance of NSX, or if NSX is already deployed, you can reuse that instance as well. And again, similar to what we mentioned earlier, there's no requirement to upgrade vSphere 8 into a newer version as part of this process. You can import those as is, and then upgrade the vCenter and ESX to version 9 over time using VCF operations. And again, let's take a look at the demo of this process. So continuing on from the previous view, again, currently there is one management domain with one vCenter, and to add an additional vCenter, we go to the add workload domain and then select import a vCenter. I would specify this, the address and the password for this vCenter. In this example, this vCenter is not connected to NSX, so I would turn these options off, and instead we will deploy a new NSX as part of the process. Okay. And here we prefer some pre-checks to ensure that the vCenter being selected meets the requirement and prerequisites for being onboarded to VCF 9. And from there, we would provide some networking configuration. Again, this option here that we chose is just to create a single node NSX manager instance. There is an option to to create an NSX 3-node cluster as well. And from here, would do further validation and checks. And again, like here, you can remediate any errors that you see before proceeding to the actual import process. You can monitor the import process in the task view of VCF operations. And after that is completed, you can go back to the inventory view and see that now there is a additional workload domain that is created with the vCenter that was selected early in the part of the process. So now there is one management domain and one workload domain in this environment. Okay. So that kind of concludes the first strategy around importing existing vSphere environment into VCF. Let me pass it over to Puneet, and let's continue to talk about the second strategy of migrating existing workloads to a new VCF instance using the
Yeah,
HCX.
thanks, Chester. This is great. So you showed us two ways of doing it. So converge your existing environment into a management domain, or import your existing environment into a workload or VI domain. And it was very exciting demos, pretty straightforward. And both process were we didn't really change anything in current environment. It is the way it is. We just added more to it, so customer can now start immediately using lifecycle management of VCF, some of the very cool features, and of course the add-ons like private AI and all that, comes with it.
Yeah, that's correct. And again, I wanted to emphasize the where there is no requirement to upgrade all of the components at
Yeah,
ESX and vCenter first before you bring them into VCF. I think for a lot of customers, that's a key concern.
yeah.
However, there's no requirement of doing that for version 9.01. And with that, you can first lay down the management component of VCF 9.0.1 and bring in your existing vSphere 8 compatible components
Right.
into VCF
And
9.
upgraded over time.
That's right.
Perfect. That sounds great. So we're going to switch gears now a little bit, as Chester mentioned. We're going to go talk a little bit more about workload migration. So in our scenario, we have converted the data center A into VCF. That's why you see this cool box around it. But we also have data center B, which is a little older hardware and something not supported. So we don't want to, in this particular case, we don't want to upgrade it into VCF. Instead, what we want to do is migrate these workloads into our data center A. So, we're doing more investment in data center A, so consolidating both of them at the same time. And for that, we will use a technology, a solution called HCX. And for any big project, right, the starting point or the planning point is most important. So what we have done in VCF 9.0 as part of VCF operations, we have provided a guided step-by-step process of creating a migration plan. So in this case, we create migration plan maybe by starting doing an application discovery, using the flow data of the what virtual machines are talking to and on which ports, depending on that, and what cohort of virtual machines make up an application, and what are the dependencies of this application in terms of networks or maybe resources needed from the other shared services. So all that mapping, you can do it in VCF operations and then create something called migration plan to help the process. And it's an optional process, but we have seen again and again customer really even it's the challenge piece is where to even start to do the migration. So this workload will help. And this is how the UI looked like. So I took a screenshot of the UI, but let's zoom into it. Next, I have a demo, and it's a lot of screens moving fast. So I want to take a second and talk about what really we're doing and then we're going to be doing in this demo. So let's zoom into this process. It's a five-step process. We'll start with creating a plan, and the plan is nothing but a top-level container that defines our whole migration. It can consist of multiple vCenters, and it holds our virtual machines, which is part of the scope. We'll talk next, but also migration waves and mobility groups. So all that is part of one plan. It's one big container with multiple virtual machines, if that's the environment. Every plan have one scope, and scope is where we're really defining the list of virtual machines. Now, you could have 10,000 virtual machines in an environment, but maybe you want to create a plan focusing on only smaller amount of it, and you can do that. And we can do it via doing the application discovery first and recognizing these are the applications I would like to be part of the scope of this plan. Or in case of Acme, maybe we'll do it for hardware rack, right? We have certain racks we would like to upgrade. So all the virtual machines on that rack might become the scope, or even other custom attributes like VM tags or certain virtual machine on a network. However, you would like to create the scope, there's a lot of flexibility available within the product to do that. Once we created the plan and the scope, next we will go and create uh, migration wave. Migration waves are um, um, part of the plan. So you can have multiple waves within a plan, but unlike the plan, waves are consist of one vCenter. So if you have four vCenter, for example, you will have at least minimum of four waves, but you can also create more waves if you like. And we will configure our source and the destination environments within the waves. And last but not least, it's the mobility group. This is an HCX construct, and we'll be creating the mobility group as part of this process from the VCF operations, and the mobility one wave can have multiple mobility groups. Mobility groups is where you're going to define that maybe these, I would like to move these two application first. This is the network I would like to use. This is the destination compute folder and whatnot, or storage where these virtual machines, these applications going to land into. So all that will get defined in the mobility group. And last process is the perform migration, which is a one button process. Once you went through this, you click the button and it everything pushes into HCX, which takes over these mobility group and creates and execute the migration itself. So let's go over that in the demo. As I mentioned, first we will do the application discovery. And in this environment, all these individual tiles represent individual applications. So they're made of a bunch of virtual machines. And the line shows the dependency of the application with each other. And as I mentioned, we use the flow to do this, but that's not the only way of doing it. So next process, what I'll do, I'll create an application within the environment, and customer can use a lot of different ways to create this application. Flow based is one way, but if you have tags, you can create use those custom tags. If you maybe maintain what are the virtual machine creates an application as an Excel file, you can actually import that Excel file to create these application constructs within VCF operation. And of course, it shows you if you're doing in via flow, what are the flows, what are the external IPs or application that it uses. So a lot of different ways of doing it. Once we have identified, okay, in this case, HR is the application I would like to migrate, we'll go ahead in ops and create a plan. And it's as easy as giving a name. And next is the scope. So as I mentioned, each plan have one scope, and in this case, we will do all the virtual machines within our HR web application as part of it. But what we have seen is it's not just one click and done process. Customer go back and forth between the application discovery and the scope in order to really make it big or important to make sure that all the VMs have been captured, especially the one that had dependency. So in this case, I'm showing there are other application. This one is a two-tier application, and we want to make sure both those tiers are also part of this plan. So we'll go ahead and add that also in that. Next is the wave. So we create a virtual a wave in there, and now we go. And in the wave, we just had to add the source and destination compute profile. So what are the vCenters it's coming in and going to? And next, we'll create this mobility group. Mobility group can be created per network wise, per application wise, per hardware rack wise, per tags wise, however you like. In this particular case, I'm creating two mobility groups per network. So all the VMs that were part of certain network was part of my wave one, and the rest were all part of my wave two. And once we're done with this, it's as easy as clicking that commit button, providing the destination VM, and committing the wave itself. And what this will do is this process will all the VMs that we have selected as part of those plan will get moved into HCX, where the execution of the migration itself will happen. But this step guide will help build the migration plan and keep a track on it. So if you're moving one wave at a time or scheduling a wave migration might not happen all at the same time, or if the errors come, all that information is available in one page. Okay, so we talked about migration plan, you showed that, and mentioned HCX a few times now. So let's quickly do an introduction. What is HCX if you're completely new to it and never heard of this solution before? HCX is a product solution that we have built within the company, ground up, and its focus is mobility and migration capability for the workloads. And we achieve this by having two concrete columns. One is the HCX networking, and the second is the HCX migration. So for any successful migration, especially, we're doing it between sites. This could be long distance sites, or could be on premises, or could be in the public cloud, wherever the VCF is installed. They could be far away. So we want to first make sure that we have a very good pipeline communication between these two sites to do our replication of the storage for the migration, and also our network extension between the sites. So while we are migrating within waves, we don't have to, first of all, change IP addresses or networks on the other side, but also the communication is still available to the source side in case if the application need to talk to some dependencies on the source side, right? So all that is built automatically with few clicks in via HCX, and we have done a lot of work within it in terms of doing traffic engineering, and there are a lot of different like mobility optimization network. Those features are available in order to do this on scale and resilient way. And the other important thing is the encryption. So when we detect that if you are these two sites are connected maybe via public internet, we make sure that encryption is enabled by default. So, but that can also work in other ways, like if you have a private network, if you have a VPN, if you have a direct connect or express route, however the connectivity between these two sites are, we take that and we build our pipeline on top of it. Next important piece is the HCX migration types. And I have a second slide that kind of goes in a little more detail in here. There are 6 different migration type options available. So I'll go over a few of them in this session. The first one is the bulk migration. As the name suggests, you can do a lot of virtual machine migration at a time. Not only that, you can also do very large virtual machine migrated via bulk migration. And the cool thing about bulk migration is if you have any older virtual machines that running on older VM tools or older VM hardware and needs to be upgraded during the process, you can use bulk to do all that. It does require a reboot of the VM, and but that gives us opportunity of doing things like VM tool updates and so forth. And also, if you have requirement of changing IP addresses, you can use bulk migration for those use cases. Or if you have any post migration script that you need to run within operating system, you can utilize this migration type for that. Next one I'll quickly go over is the replication assisted vMotion, RAV in short. This is the marriage between a bulk migration capabilities and a vMotion. So you can do a large virtual machines or a large amount of virtual machines via RAV also. But when the cutover happens, we use as vMotion technologies between vCenters. So that way your migration which is happening is have zero downtime, right? Zero minimum downtime in that. It retains the IP addresses, MAC addresses, all that information stays with the VM and does not change as part of this migration type. This is the newest addition, HAV or HCX assisted vMotion. It's a regular vMotion, but we orchestrate that via HCX. So you get cool capabilities like scheduling. If you were to do vMotion from vCenter, it happens right away. But if you orchestrate it via HCX from single UI, then you can do a scheduling of the vMotions. If you have 10 virtual machines that need to be vMotion, we will, HCX will take care of that one at a time, but orchestrate that process so you don't have to do that. HCX vMotion code migration, a very similar code migration is for the virtual machines that are turned off. And last but not least, operating assisted migration, OSAM in short. This is the one you will use if you were to do migration from KVM or Hyper-V or very old vSphere version into VCF or ESX. You will use the operating system or assisted migration. Quick note, OSAM is the only migration type that uses agent in the operating system. Rest of them do not require any agent deployed on the operating system. So this brings a lot. This is a little busy slide because there's a lot of capabilities available with HCX. So you can do up to 1,000 virtual machine replication at a time. You can do a 25 site peering, 64 service meshes and 8 networks within that, and 62 terabyte of storage per VM scale wise. And it works wherever VCF is deployed, either on premises or VMC on AWS, GCVE, which is Google Cloud VMware Engine, or Azure VMware Cloud, or Oracle VMware Oracle Cloud, sorry, VMware solution. So all our or many of our preferred partners, right? Wherever the VCF is deployed, this capability is available there, and enables a lot of different type of use cases like rehosting, what we're doing in our example today, adoption of VCF. But you can also use it for hybrid connectivity if you between multiple sites, or even rebalancing your workloads within on premises or VMware Cloud or other partners where VCF is running. Um, Quick overview of the architecture of the HCX. So in here we have side A and B. Side A is the VCF, side B might be, just running vCenter. And all you have to do is deploy an HCX manager in 9.0 or 9.0.1, the latest or current release. This deployment is manual, so it's a virtual appliance, it's a virtual machine you deployed by yourself. And once that is done, there are other appliances that get deployed automatically by the HCX manager. And those appliances, the deployment depends on if you enable certain services. So for example, if you enable network extension capability to stretch a network between sites, then an HCX NE appliance will get deployed as a pair on both sides, and the network will get stretched via that appliance on the UDP 4500, for example. So depending on what capabilities you enable, certain appliances on top of it get deployed. So pretty simple architecture from that perspective. And what I'll do next is I have a quick demo. I'll go over to set up the demo. I have a site where I have a network of virtual machines running on a VLAN port group, and we're going to migrate that virtual machine into another site which is running VCF and a VPC or a virtual private cloud in that site. So we'll land it into one of the subnets of that VPC. So let's go ahead and get started with the demo. Okay, so here I have two sites. I can see in the map, one is showing in San Francisco, other one is in Ashburn and Virginia. And we'll click the migration button on the left, and then we'll add a new migration. Here we have on this, first we provide the name and then we select basically our virtual machines. In this case, I'm doing it from the host, but the source side. So this is a small environment for demo. So 3 virtual machine I selected, and now we're going to select where these virtual machines going to land. So here I clicked it from the resource pool. I created a CRM resource pool, but if you were to select it from a host or any other way, those functionalities are available. And also the folder. So all this is on the destination side. We do the compute. Next, we're doing the storage, which storage these VMs going to land at. If we were to change the format of them from thick to thin or whatnot, we can do that now, or we can keep the same format. And next, we will actually do the migration type. So the few migration types we talked about: vMotion, bulk, replication assisted vMotion, HCX assisted vMotion, and cold migration. So depending on our use case, we'll pick one. In this case, we'll pick the RAV. And the next is a really cool tool again, is the scheduling. So there are two types of scheduling. One is when to start the replication of the data, right? If I have 500 virtual machine, it will take time to replicate. So I can start the replication right away maybe and do the switchover later during my maintenance window. So, both those options are available. In this demo, it's canceled because we will do it right away. Other extended options are, if you want to upgrade the virtual machine hardware, upgrade the virtual machine tool, maybe replicate the security tags that I've created in NSX for that virtual machine. I can do all that extended options from this UI. And next, we're going to click on the 3 virtual machines that we have selected and just verify the network. So we are using, in this particular case, a stretch network. So product is smart enough to know that where the virtual machine is, that network is being stretched. So it already picked the subnet for us where it's stretched into, but we can change that, right? So we picked NSX, VPC subnets, and if we need, we can change that. But we like where it is, so we'll keep that and hit the validate button. It runs a lot of validation in the back, both on source and destination side. And next, we'll just go ahead and hit the go button, green go button to do the migration. migration start. It's a very straightforward process, but we have also provided a nice dashboard to show that what's happening. And for individual virtual machines, you can look into this event to see the real-time information where the migration is at any given point. And one quick point I'll bring up is if migration were to fail, you can fix whatever the issue was. Maybe it's something with the storage or whatnot on the destination side. And when you restart that migration, it will start from the point of failure instead of from the beginning. So you gain a lot of, you don't lose a lot of your time that you have already spent on the migration. So that's all we had for this session. No, we went a little over because we started a little late, a couple minutes, but thanks for sticking out with us. And
One question you can.
okay, we have one question, so maybe we can
Yeah.
go it over. With HCX, is it possible to migrate containers as well, only virtual machines? So today it's only virtual machines. We do have a capability of migrating the virtual machines into the supervisor cluster that came out in 9.0. And but that's underneath is it's a container wrapped in the virtual machines, right? So the form factor is virtual machine only. That's the supported today. For this stand-up migration, we have quite a mixed bag of overlay and VLANs. With additional concerns, should we have especially between old NSX site A and new NSX at site B? So if I understand the question correctly by Matthew, um, HCX allows migration from VLAN to VLAN. NSX is required at the destination side. It does, checks for that. But if you were to do the virtual machine migration, you can do it from VLAN to VLAN. If you have a use case where you are doing a network extension, then you need NSX on the destination side. You can do a network extension from a VLAN to the overlay on the destination side. That's what we showed in this demo. If you have different version of NSX that is supported, there is an official list of under the matrix where you can see which version of HCX you have and what are the version of NSX it supports. But you can, of course, migrate from the older version of vSphere or older version of NSX to the maybe latest version of NSX and vSphere on the destination side. So even though you have a mixed bag, we do support a lot of that. And for the latest number, you have to check on the Broadcom's website to see the matrix chart of depending on which HCX version you're using. So hope that answer your question.
I think that's it.
Anything? Okay, so Chester is looking for the question in the back end.
Yeah, I've answered the rest of them. Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks again for sticking with us. We went a little bit over, but appreciate your time and stay connected with VMUG. We love to do these. And if you have any more questions, feel free to reach out via VMUG channels, and we'll be happy to help. Thanks. Thanks, Chester.
Yeah, and